Bitcoin, bullets, babies, and beauty. What in the world do these four things have in common? Our friends over at Bitcoin Magazine recently published an article that got me thinking how Bitcoin has changed my worldview in so many ways. And this one is a pretty big one, so we're going to start with the babies. This article is titled Empowerment Over Fear, Bitcoin, Home Birth, and Responsible Sovereignty. Here in the first four paragraphs, the author Connor says, "When my partner initially mentioned a home birth for our first child, I didn't give it much thought. As a man, I had limited knowledge of what childbirth entailed. For my whole life, it seemed like common knowledge that giving birth in the hospital is just what you do because it's safe. Luckily, my partner didn't trust common knowledge. She went and verified for herself. Did you know that in 2021, cesarean deliveries accounted for 32.1% of live births in the United States? I was taken aback when I learned that. 1/3 of women were not having natural births in one of the wealthiest countries in the world. I also learned that inducing women early is common practice in a hospital. It is usually done when there is a concern for the mother's or baby's health, but elective labor induction is also often performed for convenience. Labor induction carries various risks, including failed induction, low fetal heart rate, infection, uterine rupture, and increased bleeding after delivery. Furthermore, epidurals containing fentanyl have been known to cause difficulties in babies latching onto their mother's breasts. This is not meant to bash on hospitals, it's to point out that women's bodies have been able to birth babies long before humans created hospitals." Reading this article got me realizing that there is so much that we simply trust and fail to verify in our daily lives. Heading down this Bitcoin rabbit hole has gotten me thinking about many things that I never, ever would have expected thinking about having dove into this. A phrase often heard in the Bitcoin community is that there is two parts of a transaction, and one half of every transaction is money. When you go through your entire life interacting with something that is rotten to its core, but you don't know anything about how the economic system works, you can feel it, but you might not be able to put your finger on it. It reminds me of this.
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind.
For years, I labeled myself as something of a realistic optimist, and that realism held me down from reaching the optimism levels that Saint Opti finds every single morning. And even still, I felt like a hamster on a wheel. Something was wrong. I never did the math. I never sat down and figured out exactly how much I was making in relation to how much I made in the past, but it never felt like I was really getting anywhere. Even though the number on my paychecks was getting bigger as the years went by from my teens into my 30s, I was still living generally the same lifestyle. Once I stumbled onto Bitcoin, I realized what that splinter in my mind was. It was the entire monetary system that our whole world functions on. The incentive structures of basically everything is broken. You have a failed medical system that keeps people sick. You have people buying really, really dumb things year after year. You've got an entire YOLO culture. You only live once. Who cares? Nothing matters. You've got people eating garbage food that is easy to make, highly processed, keeps you sick, gets you back to those doctors that want to keep you sick to keep on selling you medication. Why would you learn how to protect yourself when you can just sue somebody? And why be active, healthy, go on walks, eat well, and think for yourself when you can just watch something that tells you how to think? Why buy well-made clothing when the stuff you bought last week is already out of fashion? And why in the world would you ever dream of having children when the entire concept of having a family encompasses all of what I just mentioned? One of the biggest things I've learned from traveling down the orange rabbit hole is that I don't have to trust others with my health, my diet, my protection, my choices. These are things that I need to do the research and figure out on my own. And one of those things I need to figure out is how to protect myself and my loved ones.
You have no idea what's coming.
You want a war? Or do you want to just give me a gun?
I was raised in a traditional household, and I still hold those values close to my heart. One of the things that I struggled with for years was the idea that it is my responsibility, and mine alone, to make sure those things, those people, those places, those everything, my money included, is protected by me and me alone. That isn't to say that those people that I care for, my wife and children, won't be able to protect themselves, but as with anything, the first place responsibility falls is on your own shoulders. Thanks to Bitcoin, I have a newfound love of being able to say, yes, I know exactly where my money is. Yes, I know exactly where my food is coming from. I've gone and met a rancher and shook his hand. Yes, I know exactly how to use this weapon.
Amen.
Get it bloody.
I'm certainly no John Wick, but I at least know which end of the weapon to point away from myself. Your journey might take you in different directions, but I would be very surprised if it was limited to the monetary world alone.
How has Bitcoin changed you?
It's made me think about things much more critically than what I think I used to. It makes me challenge whatever I hear, this is the status quo, or this is just how things are. It's like this light bulb, like I need to dig deeper on whatever that is. And I think that's kind of the essence, because when you look at Bitcoin at the start, it almost seems like, well, there's no way that could be that simple, or that it could be, that could be the solution to all these things. Mm-hmm. And then the deeper you dig, and you're just like, oh my God, that's connected to this. And then that's connected to this thing over here that I thought were two totally different things. Even into politics, mm-hmm. You know, you can look at it and say, well, they're chasing this thing that's way downstream, and they're trying to wrap policies and things around that. And if they go far enough upstream, they can see that the thing that's causing all of this is a broken form of money.
Seeing the flaws in the entire incentive structure of the whole world has got me thinking about, what are we eating? Where is it coming from? Who should protect my home? It's my belief that the vast, vast majority of the world is made up of very good people that are just like you or me. There's a famous saying popularized by Ice-T: don't hate the player, hate the game. Imagine a game of tag, but instead of going around and touching the person that you're trying to make it, you have to use a staple gun. It's not a bad game, it's just a really bad rule set. We could live in a fun, vibrant, interesting world where we weren't all trying to stab each other in the back to make a buck, if making a buck didn't require stabbing each other in the back. We should all participate in the world that we want to see more of. Part of what I want to see, part of what I imagine most anybody wants to see, is their time protected. If I trade an hour of my time today, I'd like to be able to redeem that hour of time at some point in the future. Now, I can hear some people saying, why should it be worth anything? And certainly, why should it be worth more? Well, let's agree that if I spend an hour doing something, I should get an hour's worth of payment for doing that hour. I shouldn't get half an hour's work for putting an hour in. Now you might say, okay, that's all well and fine, but why should you get more? If you put an hour in now, why should you ever get an hour and a half worth down the road? Here's where I gotta get a little metaphysical and woo on you. But it is my belief that the reason I should get more bang for my sats down the road is because I helped get us here. Now I could hear you saying, yeah, but what about the people that do bad things, criminals? Without getting too deep into this idea, criminal action, bad behavior, things that break down the structure of society leads to a very short timeline. But things that build, things that help others, things that unite humanity makes for a much longer timeline. And I'm talking about the scale of thousands upon thousands of years. Enough bad actions and all of humanity goes poof. Enough good actions and, well, who knows where humanity could go. We want the hard work that we put into something to be protected. We want our money protected. We want our friends, our family, our loved ones protected. We want our bodies to be protected by the things that we put into them. Thanks to Bitcoin, my view on almost everything has changed in some shape or form. I feel truly secure and free and safe knowing where my money is and knowing that it's not going anywhere. I want Bitcoin to secure my time. I want bullets to maybe trade with if things get bad enough, but also to be self-sufficient to protect those around me. I want children to help create the world that I'd like to participate more in. And I want more beauty, mentally, physically, all around me because, hey, who doesn't want more beautiful things in the world? The world needs as much goodness in it as we can possibly get. But that can only happen when we have a base layer that is sound, secure, and unwavering. Bitcoin, no pun intended, is that base layer.